our relationship was real. We were brother and sister. We were fortified. Our relationship was forged in fire, the fire of politics. I knew him. I knew Charlie, the real Charlie. And Charlie knew the real Candace, I think in the end, Charlie was going through a spiritual transformation. I don't think it, I know it. He was going through a lot, and there was a lot of pressure. And it's hard for me to watch the people who were pressuring him, I don't know, just say the things that they're saying. There's something about it that just feels really fake to me. And they would have allowed him to lose and wanted him to lose everything for changing or even slightly modifying an opinion. And then to see them doing what they're doing today, it's hurtful to me. It's very hurtful to me. But I don't want today to be about anything other than you guys knowing that Charlie really was an amazing person. He was like, we were really close. And he was my best friend and my brother. And I will never unsee the footage of what I saw, the violence of it. I pray for the people who took any pleasure in that. There's not a single person in the world that I would wish that on. And least of all, someone with a heart like Charlie's. He loved his family, he loved his wife, he loved his country. And he didn't deserve that ending. He's really young. But I know that we will carry the torch. I will never allow the memory of Charlie to be forgotten, obviously, because there is no Candace without Charlie. We came up in politics together. And so I don't know what else to say, guys, other than I'm in a lot of pain right now. And I love you, Charlie. And, I'll see you when I'll see you. I love you very much. Thank you, guys.
This is not a story about grief. It is a story about performance, about a woman who looked into the lens of a camera, invoked the language of heartbreak, and yet never produced a single tear. Candace Owens, conservative commentator, professional contrarian, a woman who has built an empire on outrage. But when Charlie Kirk, the co-founder of Turning Point USA, was shot dead, she took on a new role. Not pundit, not analyst, not critic. No. This time, Candace Owens cast herself as the tragic best friend. The problem, the performance didn't add up. Her eyes were dry. Her cheeks were dry. The room was dry. She was crying, but there was no evidence of liquid sorrow. It was grief without tears, pain without water, a eulogy without sincerity. So what kind of person fakes grief? What kind of mind sees murder not as a loss, but as leverage? Psychologists have a term for it, the Dark Triad: narcissism, Machiavellianism, psychopathy, three interlocking traits that, together, create the perfect storm of manipulation. Narcissism is the art of making everything about you. In narcissism there are no supporting characters, only rivals and props. Someone dies, and instead of stepping back, the narcissist steps forward. They don't say, "What a tragedy for the family." They say, "What a tragedy for me." Owen's video was a masterclass in this. Her grief wasn't about Charlie Kirk. It was about her reaction to Charlie Kirk. "I can't process this," she said. "My best friend. My brother." Every word circled back to her feelings, to her pain. That's narcissism. Not the absence of feeling, but the hijacking of feeling. She didn't grieve Kirk. She rerouted his death into her brand. In that moment, he wasn't a victim of violence. He was a mirror for her image. Machiavellianism is cold strategy, the willingness to use anything, even tragedy, as a tool for personal advancement. Think about the timing. The murder was fresh. The shockwaves had barely begun. His wife, his family, his actual inner circle were still reeling. And yet there was Candace, camera on, lights adjusted, tone rehearsed. Why so fast? Because in the algorithm economy, speed is everything. The first to market grief wins the sympathy clicks. Machiavellians don't pause for respect, they sprint for relevance. Owens knew this. She knew that tragedy is SEO gold. Charlie Kirk dead was trending, and so like a stock trader pouncing on a crash, she cashed in. The performance wasn't delayed, it was immediate, because the point wasn't mourning, the point was traffic. And then there's psychopathy, the absence of empathy, the hollowness behind the eyes, the inability to connect with the pain of others. This is where the missing tears matter, because emotion can be mimicked. You can fake the quiver in your voice, you can fake the heavy pauses, you can fake the strained breathing, but you cannot fake tears if your body doesn't produce them. Her performance was textbook. She followed the formulas of sadness, but there was no physiological substance, no swelling, no redness, no moisture. It was a paint-by-numbers version of grief with the colours missing. That's psychopathy in action, the knowledge of what sadness looks like without the capacity to feel it. But Owens's video wasn't just for her, it was for you. That's where parasocial manipulation enters. By calling Kirk her best friend and brother, Owens wasn't just exaggerating, she was trying to transfer intimacy. If she convinces you they were family, then your grief becomes her grief, your sympathy flows into her pocket, your outrage becomes her engagement. This is how parasocial bonds are engineered, not by truth, but by narrative, not by evidence, but by suggestion. Owens didn't need to prove her closeness to Kirk, she only needed to declare it, and the performance would do the rest. Candace Owens is not an outlier, she is a symptom. The outrage economy thrives on the commodification of tragedy. Alex Jones made millions turning murdered children into conspiracy fodder. Ben Shapiro turns every mass shooting into bullet points and debate rehearsals. Piers Morgan has built a career out of parachuting into grief, attaching himself to death like a barnacle on tragedy. This is the psychology of an entire industry. Empathy is weakness when it comes to policy, but empathy is currency when it comes to clicks. They don't believe in compassion, they believe in conversion rates. Here's the chilling part. For this psychology to work, conscience has to be severed. Most people would stop, would hesitate, would think, this isn't my moment, this isn't my grief. But moral disengagement allows the opportunist to override that instinct. To them, death isn't sacred, it's useful, it's not devastating, it's convenient. A life lost is a chance gained. Murder isn't a tragedy, it's a marketing campaign waiting to be cut. That's what Owens demonstrated. She didn't just grieve badly, she revealed that her moral compass doesn't point north, it points to the algorithm. So what's the damage? When grief is faked often enough, the audience begins to doubt real grief. Owens's dry tears don't just make her look hollow, they erode the fabric of trust. Because if Candace Owens can call Charlie Kirk her best friend and cry without crying, then who else is lying? Which other tragedies have been monetized? Which other tears were as dry as hers? The psychological consequence is mass cynicism. When empathy is commodified, sincerity becomes suspect. And when sincerity dies, society corrodes. Candace Owens wasn't Charlie Kirk's best friend. She wasn't his sister. She wasn't family. She was a colleague, a co-worker in the outrage economy. And in his death, as in his life, she treated him not as a person, but as a prop. Her tears didn't fall, but her mask did. And what we saw underneath wasn't friendship, it wasn't compassion, it wasn't grief. It was the Dark Triad in full colour. Narcissism in the spotlight, Machiavellianism in the timing, psychopathy in the dryness. Owens didn't cry. She calculated, she didn't mourn, she monetized, she didn't lose a friend, she gained a headline. And that, dear viewer, is the true crime here, not the murder of Charlie Kirk, tragic though it is. The true crime is the psychological theft of grief itself, stolen and resold by Candace Owens to the highest bidder.